Hello and welcome to Compelled to Act, where we do things unscripted, unedited, and off the cuff. Tonight we're going to be looking at MSNBC talking about the rude and misogynistic retweets of Trump. I know, compelling news, right, guys? But if it's worthy of the mainstream media, then surely is worthy of my time. Let's see what kind of claims are made, what is true, and what isn't. And with that being said, let's hop right on in.
I want to bring in the University of Arkansas Dean for the Clinton School of Public Service and MSNBC analyst, Victoria DeFrancesco Soto. Also with us, former Florida Republican Congressman and MSNBC political analyst, Carlos Curbelo. Good to have both of you. Victoria, the New York Times points out this is actually the second time in 10 days Trump has kind of reshared a sexual, crude remark about Harris. Her campaign has decided she's not saying anything. There's no direct response. Is that the right strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, this merits no response whatsoever. And I think ultimately the messages that Donald Trump is putting out are clear enough in and of themselves. And regrettably, this is something that women have been contending with, throughout the course of history, both Republicans and Democrats. Regrettably, kind of these sexist frames, whether implicit, explicit, dog whistle, or very explicit, like in the case of Donald Trump, are something we have had to contend with. So I think this is something that will hurt Donald Trump, as we have seen that women not only grow in terms of their electoral might in getting elected to positions of power, but also women have been outvoting men for over 40 years. We go to the ballot boxes. So this is not a constituency that you want to denigrate. This is not a constituency that you want to shame and make feel less.
Notice they haven't showed us what he said yet. Like, I think I know what tweets they're talking about, but I'm not even sure if the tweets I saw were real. But they're not telling us what he said, just it was bad. Trust us. And he's pushing away women. I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me like women seem to put down other women more than men do. And I would tend to believe that if a woman was accused of sleeping her way to the top, it's probably anymore mainly by other women. So I don't know that this is really losing him votes. But that's my take so far.
Congressman, there may be nothing that Donald Trump hates more than being ignored. And when he posted this most recent crude attack, it was one of 30 reposts in half an hour. Do you think Harris's refusal to respond to these crude, misogynistic suggestions are getting under his skin?
Yeah, Chris, when Donald Trump doesn't get the type of engagement that he really thrives off of, when he doesn't get attention, when he's not in the spotlight, when people aren't willing to go low the way he's willing to go, he does get frustrated and he tries to ramp up and try to increase the volume. I think in this case, I mean, this attack is so just beneath a campaign, especially a presidential campaign, that it does make sense for the Harris campaign to ignore it and to allow it to speak for itself. And that will probably cause Donald Trump to become even more agitated and to try to stoop even lower. Of course, ultimately, this ends up hurting him with the types of swing voters that will ultimately decide this election.
Victoria.
Okay, so I just want to take in totality for a second. So they say it was a mean tweet, and then it was the second one in 10 days. So now they've planted two tweets that were mean in your head. And then further down the line, they couch it with those tweets were among 30 that he retweeted in just half an hour. Which, yeah, that is a high retweet per minute, in my opinion. That's a pretty rapid fire retweets. But You see what they're doing? They're building you up to, oh, those mean tweets were just of a collection of 30. All 30 of those tweets or retweets must have been mean too. What they're not saying is that those didn't have anything to do with her. I bet you they didn't. So 1 out of 30, to be accurate, was a mean tweet towards Harris, would be my official parsing of the information they're giving us.
In a new Fox poll of swing states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, there's a 22-point gender gap. Harris has an 11-point advantage with women, Trump with 11 points with men. We just heard Von Hilliard report on campaign efforts to win over more women. So what's Donald Trump doing here?
Can we just acknowledge for a second? Like, I'm going to just go back. She said Harris has a lead in women and Trump has a lead in men. Is that how you guys read this chart? Because that's not how I read this chart. So which is wrong, her statement or this chart? I believe her statement more. I believe men are for Trump. But why would they do that?
Campaign efforts to win over more women. So what's Donald Trump doing here?
I think he's trying to figure out a way to get attention. And to Carlos's point, this is an individual who has been used to dominating the headlines for essentially the past decade. And over the last couple of weeks, we have seen the page turn in the political narrative. We've seen a very energized Democratic Party and Donald Trump trying to get the limelight back. But I believe that not all publicity is good publicity. So perhaps he's trying to do that, just get back into the attention. But ultimately, you need women to win elections, and especially in these swing states, where we're talking about minority women, where we're talking about Latinas, where we're talking about African American women. It's really important that his campaign find a way to connect with them, because if they want to win those swing states, if they want to keep that small edge that they have, these are the demographics they have to focus on.
I wonder, Victoria, if this could be motivating on the other side, because these attacks can be triggering for women who have faced similar attacks on their own qualifications, people overtly or slyly trying to suggest they did not earn their place in the world. Do you think it can be motivating?
Okay. We're gonna break this video right there. We'll come right back. But they're making it sound like these are baseless accusations. They're making it sound like if you're a woman in the office alongside Kamala Harris and she gets the job, she gets the promotion, whatever, you think those women aren't going to go, well, she was sleeping with the boss, but that surely had nothing to do with it. I mean, they're disconnected from reality. And if you don't believe me, we're going to cut right out of here real quick. Look at this. This is the Los Angeles Times, LA Times. So it's not a right leaning anything. And this was November 29th, 1994. So we're going on 30 years ago. Right? 30 years ago. And we'll pick up here and we'll go through quite a bit of this. So it says Brown, referencing Willie Brown. And you know what? We'll start from the beginning. Assembly Speaker Willie Brown, continuing his rush to hand out patronage jobs while he retains his powerful post, has been given high-paying appointments to his former law associate and a former Alameda County prosecutor who is Brown's frequent companion. Brown, exercising his power even as his speakership seems near an end, named attorney Kamala Harris to the California Medical Assistance Commission, a job that pays $72,000 a year. That was 1994, mind you, for that salary. If you're working 40 hours a week right now, wouldn't you probably like to be making $72,000 a year? Because if you're in America, statistically speaking, if you're working 40 hours a week, we're probably doing more like 40, 50,000. Anyways, back to the article. Harris, a former deputy district attorney in Alameda County, was described by several people at the Capitol as Brown's girlfriend. In March, San Francisco Chronicle columnist Herb Cahen called her the Speaker's new steady. Harris declined to be interviewed Monday, and Brown's spokeswoman did not return phone calls. Hey, look at that. It's a 30-year trend with Kamala not doing interviews. Who knew? Back to the article. Harris accepted the appointment last week after serving 6 months as Brown's appointee to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, which pays $97,088 a year. After Harris resigned from the Unemployment Board last week, Brown replaced Barr with Philip S. Ryan, a lawyer and longtime friend and business associate. Now, I'm going to skip a couple things because it speaks more towards the fairness of politics back in the day versus now. It mentions how the Republicans probably aren't complaining too hard because one of their people did the exact same thing, and there's a comment about everybody doing this, even though they complain about it once they get into power, they do the same thing. All right, back to the article. Harris's term on the medical board continues until January 1st, 1998. Salary for the California Medical Assistance Commission is tied to legislators' pay. A government commission earlier this year voted to grant legislators a 37% pay increase. Have you ever in your life gotten a 37% pay increase? If you did, it obviously had to have come with a promotion, right? No employer has ever said, you know what? You're doing the exact same job you've been doing the past, like, let's say 5 years. 37% pay increase. Bam. You're welcome. But our politicians, they just vote that stuff for themselves. All right, back to the article. I try to make clear when I go back, though I'm very bad about making it clear when I stray from. So, but the 37% pay increase took it from the current $52,500 a year to $72,000, effective when the new legislature takes office Monday. In the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, where Harris worked for 3 years, she was viewed as an able prosecutor on the way up. She took a leave earlier this year, and Brown named her the Unemployment Insurance Appeals, or to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board in May. So, am I mistaken? That reads like she took a leave from her position so that she could take another position. That seems weird. Am I wrong in that interpretation? Let me know what you think. But there you go. 1994, LA Times. They're saying the same thing. They're saying, girl, you slept your way in. It's obvious. I mean, it's obvious. There's no denying it, but here they are. how awful of him to like actually point out not only is she a DEI hire, she also slept her way in. She's a double threat. All right. Well, that's enough backstory on that. We'll get back to the video.
I think flipping it around for the Democratic side, absolutely. Women have been contending with these things for a very long time, pretty much throughout the course of history. But here, where we're seeing an incredibly qualified woman at the top of the ticket being targeted in this way, it doesn't make you just angry about her, but it can trigger, to your point, Chris, things we have all individually experienced. So I think that this is something, if the Democratic Party is able to frame it, maybe not explicitly right now, but remind women this struggle is your struggle. Go out and do something about it. Vote, get mobilized, get their friends to get out and vote.
So, Congressman, it was just a month ago, I think. When was the RNC and post-assassination attempt, right, where Trump and Vance were themselves suggesting the time for harsh rhetoric was over? Take a listen.
Now, I think our disagreements actually make us stronger. And my message to my fellow Americans, those watching from across the country, is shouldn't we be governed by a party that is unafraid to debate ideas and come to the best solution? That's the Republican Party of the next 4 years, united in our love for this country and committed to free speech and the open exchange of ideas.
Okay. Like, how do they get away with this? I hope you guys got it. And if not, she says they're the people that were saying the rhetoric's got to come down. Take a listen. And then they showed us clips about none of that. Like, you're proving no point there. You might as well be saying giraffes are awesome. Just look at my dog. What are you saying? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then this other woman previously talking about it's gonna rally the Democratic women, or the women towards the Democrats. Trump's been around my entire lifetime, so most likely your entire lifetime, whether you knew it or not, whether you paid attention or not. The world knew Donald Trump, and they didn't have any problems with him until he decided to run for office. And then the whole world turned against him, or at least half of it, whatever. And all we ever hear about is Donald Trump. They're literally on here saying he didn't get enough of a response. He's so mad, it's getting under his skin so bad that he's not getting the attention he wants, while they do a whole show talking about him. I feel like Alanis Morissette's supposed to break in here and start singing It's How Ironic, It's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Here's the thing. Statistically speaking, there's more women that have seen another woman leap her way up the chain than there are women that have slept their way up the chain. So statistically, women should be on Trump's side on this. Again, my opinion. Let's see what else they have to say after showing those clips that had absolutely nothing to do with their claims.
I mean, the fact that it didn't actually even last through Donald Trump's convention speech and has only seemed to amp up since then. Did they not, make the rhetoric less harsh because they never actually meant to do it? They didn't think it was working? This is simply who they are? What do you see? Because obviously the polls don't suggest it's working.
Isn't she victim blaming? So, again, what rhetoric? You have not shown me any hateful rhetoric. The dude just said J.D. Vance said the Republican Party is going to be united. and that discussing ideas is how we go forward. And now you're on to the hateful rhetoric. Why are they not ramping it down? He wasn't calling. Okay, fair point. They didn't show it, but I do know of a clip. They could have, but why aren't they? Why aren't they giving us any actual information? Instead, it's trust us. But again, Trump was the victim of the assassination attempt because of the huge rhetoric against him. He's a threat to our democracy. We'll lose our democracy if he gets in. He's going to be a dictator. He's going to be a titan. He's gonna kill all the LGBTQ plus people and ban abortion nationwide, and you'll never have freedoms again because he is literally Hitler. The worst they've done is say factual stuff about Kamala and call her the B word. Or I'm sorry, I don't even think they did that. The clip I'm thinking of, they told her to go to hell. But the victim is supposed to tone down his already kind of toned down message.
Well, Chris, this is who Donald Trump is. A lot of people, myself included, held some hope that surviving an assassination attempt might help him reflect and really change course and at least shift a little bit to try to bring the country together. But he has proven that he just can't do it. And this is the culture that Donald Trump has instilled in the Republican Party, one of personal attacks, of nasty rhetoric. And by the way, Chris, it's the reason why Donald Trump loses elections. It's not on policy. If you look at some of his policies, people support his policies, his economic policies. I mean, the polls are all there. It's on style that Donald Trump loses. That's why the MAGA movement was rejected in 2018, in 2020, and in 2022 in a lot of swing states when Republicans were supposed to have a red wave and didn't. Why? Because of Donald Trump's style, because of the toxic nature of his rhetoric that swing voters end up rejecting.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with this guy. First, words matter, and I know in his head probably what he's thinking, but what it projects is he said elections. He lost elections. He's lost one election. Singular, not plural, but in his head, he lost 2018, which wasn't his race. Now, I would argue 2018 and 2020 were lost mostly by the Republicans being idiots and not knowing how to ballot harvest. I mean, that's what won it for Democrats is ballot harvesting. Plain and simple. So this guy's misdiagnosing the results, in my opinion. It's just silly stuff. But there you have it. There's a vague innuendo of Trump just being so hateful, but they can't tell you what he said or what you should be mad at. Just trust us, be mad, and here's some clips that have nothing to do with our claims. So great reporting, MSNBC. I don't believe you should legally be able to put reports down here because you're not reporting. This is all opinion. This is no different than what I'm doing right here. But the difference is they're putting it off as if it was news when it really isn't. But there we have it. My conclusion. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I hope you have a great day.